Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're going to be providing an update to the bull market support band. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, it has been a relatively uneventful week for Bitcoin. It only went up about 3%. Obviously, no one is getting out of bed for 3%, especially with Bitcoin below $43,000. But regardless, we are still below the 20-week SMA, which is more or less the expectation. One of the things we've discussed many times is that when we go below the bull market support band, we tend to at least spend 3 to 6 months there. And that more or less worked out in the summer. We spent three months there. So far, we've spent about 7 weeks below the bull market support band. So my argument is that we are unlikely to have a candle that's just going to immediately take us above and then hold it as support. Okay, and the holding as support is the key thing. So and by the way, if you want an update here on the 20-week estimate, the 21-week EMA, so that you know kind of what those targets would be, the 20-week estimate is now 52k, the 21-week EMA is now 49.1k, so the bull market support band more or less ranges from 49k to 52 to 52k, so 49 to 52, or approximately, to get to the 20-week SMA, we need to go up almost $10,000. Okay, so quite a ways to go before we could argue that the bull side is back on track. And I would like to say again that if you have trouble navigating these things, these downtrends, then sometimes just take a step back from the market. I mean, 3 to 6 months, while it can seem like a long time below a certain level, I mean, in hindsight, they never really seem like they lasted long enough because everyone always wishes they had just kind of stuck around longer. But I did wanna provide another update here, and talk about how over the last several weeks, my general argument for Q1 is that neutral at best, right? So Bitcoin is generally leaning bearish, okay, and neutral at best. And some people have argued that this isn't really bearish. Bitcoin is still at 42, 43k, which is where it was a couple weeks ago. But look, I mean, to some degree, that's rationalizing. Okay, I mean, Bitcoin has been in a fairly systematic downtrend here over the last couple of months, and we do want to see that momentum shift back up to the upside, but we're still likely looking at many more weeks where we are at least trading below the bull market support band. I mean, I would love to be proven wrong on that. I have no problem with Bitcoin, going to 55k next week. I would love for that to happen, and then we could, set our sights on what would hopefully come after that. But, I have to be honest, and as far as I can tell, in the short term, Bitcoin it still leans either bearish or neutral. Okay, and by neutral, I mean this is still going to be resistance for a little bit, and that's why I'm still inclined to say that for Q1, and we'll take it one quarter at a time here, but for Q1, still seems bearish slash neutral. Okay, doesn't mean we can't get a bounce, and in fact, I've argued before that we should be able to see a bounce off 40k. We got a small bounce that took us back to 44k, but again, you could easily say that's just a bounce for ants, right? It's just $44,000 Bitcoin isn't really that much to get excited for. So, I just want people, to manage their expectations here and to remember that it is a long game, all right? And one way to visualize this is to look at the Heikin Ashi candles. And when you look at this, it's hard to make the short-term bullish case, right? I mean, it's certainly hard to say that, hey, immediately Bitcoin has to turn this thing around and start going higher. Clearly, we're closing every week below the midpoint from the prior week, which is a function of the prior candle. So, the open of, say, a new candle is the midpoint. Or sorry. This will only turn green if it's above the midpoint from the prior candle, and so that's why when you look at normal candles, you'll still see some green candles in here as long as the weekly close is above the weekly open. But if you look at the Heikin Ashi candles, it tells a different story. And right now, we're not seeing any overshadows here. We're just seeing the undershadows. And so I still would say, for at least a few more weeks, and as we make our way through Q1, we still got a lot of work to put in. And I would argue that we still have many weeks at least. Again, it normally is 3 to 6 months, and so far it's been about 7 weeks below the 20-week SMA. Okay, so do keep that in mind. I mean, I know that says 6 weeks, but this one was the first one that had a wick below. Oh, this is on the Heikin Ashi as well. If you go back over to the other candles, you can see this was 1, 2, all the way 7 weeks basically. So it's been 7 weeks of being below the 20-week SMA and or the 21-week EMA. And arguably, if you stick around during this phase and you see it through, then eventually you'll come out on the other side. But that doesn't mean there can't be more downside volatility, right? It doesn't mean there can't be. I would love to see 40K hold, to be completely honest. I'd love to see it hold. I'd love to see us hold the line here and trend higher. I mean, it seems like crypto Twitter is full of bears now. And if anything, they're all expecting either a downtrend or a dead cat bounce. Would be nice if it wasn't that, and we just kind of got a bounce, and instead of going back down, we just continued on up higher. But with all that said, with all the the peanut gallery of crypto Twitter telling us what they know is going to happen, I'm just telling you from my perspective, when looking at all the data and looking at when we're below the 20-week, when we're below the 21-week EMA, after a fairly nice move to the upside, we tend to spend 3 to 6 months below it. That's just what it is. We said that back in May, and it took 3 months. Here, it's been about 7 weeks already. And so I think the argument stays the same. We're looking at several more weeks here, more than likely below the 20-week SMA. And if we get to it, it's going to be quite the battle. So the argument is that eventually we will get to it. It's just a matter of when, right? Because if we don't go to it this week, then what's going to happen is it's just going to continue coming down. So whether we go test it this week, or whether it takes a little bit longer to test it, or it takes even longer to test it, we will eventually test it. That's the point. And then that will be the big test to see if we can get back above it and hold it as support and resume another uptrend back up to the prior all-time high. But in light, in light of the lengthening cycle video I released earlier today, one of the things we said all along is that you should not expect, really you should never expect a parabolic rally. You just be thankful when they come. But definitely I would not expect one in Q1, because the main battle here is just getting above the 20-week SMA and holding it as support. So we don't even need to talk about a parabolic rally until we can do that. And right now we're still well below it. So again, not a whole lot has changed between last week and this week. I know these last couple of videos in the bull market support band have been somewhat bearish, but it's easy to see when you go over to the Heikin Ashi candles and you see we're just in a general downtrend. It's hard to be anything other than that. Okay. I mean, if every week we said we're going to get a bounce this week, we just keep be wrong over and over and over again. So eventually it'll come. For now, still going to be a grind below the bull market support band for a while, and we'll see what happens. Right? I mean, we still have quite a ways to go. Again, we have to go up $10,000 just to get back above the 20-week moving average. So that certainly is a tall order. And so we will continue to navigate this. Again, if you like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll certainly keep an eye on these things and see if we can find a momentum shift occurring somewhere in the coming weeks / months, especially as we get in later into the year. And also give the video a thumbs up. Check out the premium list into thecryptoverse.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.